Hello and welcome all of you students once again. So today we will see the remaining part from the unit 4, and in the unit 4 only the part related to the deadlock was remaining, and that already last time we have started. So in the last lecture we have seen what is the deadlock and the different examples of the deadlock, as well as the different condition responsible for the deadlock, because of which different reasons and the conditions deadlock can occur. That part last time we have covered. So today we'll discuss about the various deadlock handling strategies. Actually there are the 4 strategies are there. Out of that 4, today we'll discuss the 2, and remaining 2 will be discussed in the next lecture. So in the today's lecture we will discuss about the deadlock handling strategies like deadlock prevention and the deadlock avoidance. Okay. So deadlock handling strategy in the sense how we can avoid the deadlocks, or how the system can avoid the deadlocks. Okay. How the operating system can play their part to avoid these kind of deadlock. Okay. So that part today we will discuss. So in that, as I said, there are the 4 main strategies are there in order to handle the deadlock and not let the deadlock to be occur. And even if the deadlock occurs, then how we can recover from that deadlock. That all the 4 techniques consist of this deadlock handling strategies. So in that, first is the deadlock prevention. Then we have the deadlock avoidance. Then fourth, we have the deadlock detection and the recovery, and the last we have the deadlock ignorance. So today we'll discuss about the deadlock prevention and the deadlock avoidance. Okay. So already in the last lecture we have discussed what is the concept of deadlock. So deadlock is nothing but the situation where the execution of 2 or more processes get halted or the block, because each process holds some resource and wait for the another resource which is held by some other process. So same thing last time we have discussed with the different examples, and I have also shown you here also. So here in this figure you can easily see process P1 hold the resource R1 and it wait for the resource R2, which is already held by the process P2. So process P1 is holding the resource R1 and it is waiting for the resource R2 to complete its processing, but this R2 is already holded by the P2. In the similar way, process P2 is holding the resource R2 and it is requesting the resource R1, but R1 is already allocated to the P1. Okay. So in this case, none of these 2 processes can complete and release the resources, and because of that, both of these process has to be keep waiting infinitely. Okay. And as they goes on waiting infinitely, that particular situation is called as a deadlock situation. So here in this example, P1 and P2 are in the deadlock because each of them need the resources of others. As you can see, the P1 need the resources of P2 and P2 need the resources of P1 to complete their education, but neither of them is willing to give up their resources. Neither of this P1 willing to give the release the resource, neither P2 is willing to release the resource, and because of that, the waiting time goes on increasing, and that is being considered as an infinite waiting, and that is being considered as a deadlock in case of the operating system. So now what we have to discuss, how this deadlock can be handled. Can we prevent the deadlock before it occur, or even after occurring of the deadlock, can we also can the system also recover from that deadlock? So that different things we are going to discuss today. Okay. So that is so today we'll discuss the first technique in that, and also the second. So first is the deadlock prevention. How we can avoid the deadlock to. So in the deadlock prevention, this is the strategy which related with that all the four conditions responsible for the deadlock occurrence. Okay, means in the deadlock prevention, we'll try to dissatisfy or violate or break the one of the four conditions which are responsible for the occurrence of deadlock. Now, to prevent the deadlock from happening, we have to concentrate on because of which different condition deadlock is occurring. Now, already we have discussed in the previous lecture, there are the four conditions because of which deadlock occurs. And which are that four condition? First is the mutual exclusion, then hold and wait, then no preemption, and the circular wait. So these are the four conditions because of which deadlock can occur. But now if you want to prevent the deadlock, if you don't want the deadlock to happen, then what can be done? So for that purpose, you already know why the deadlock can occur. So you already know deadlock can occur because of that four condition. If that four condition satisfy at the same time, then your system goes into the deadlock. Your system goes into the deadlock in the sense you cannot able to process anything. Your system get hangs completely. Now, if you want that your system should not go into the deadlock, then what can be done? What are the solution for that? So to get the solution for that, as you must know, because of what the deadlock occurs. So deadlock occur because of that four condition. So if you want to prevent the deadlock, then this you have to concentrate on how these four conditions should not get satisfied. Means these four conditions should get dissatisfied. Means we have to violate or break one of these four conditions to be get occurred. Means if any of these condition does not get occurred, if any of these condition does not get satisfied, then also we can prevent the deadlock. Understood? So if you want your system to be free from the deadlock, then this is in the deadlock prevention, such kind of strategy are designed where the operating system will try to violate or break one of the four necessary conditions required for the occurrence of the deadlock. So violating that four condition or breaking that four condition, violating that some of the condition of the four or four itself, or breaking the some of the condition of the four, or preventing that condition to be get occur, or dissatisfying that conditions, that is the only solution to prevent the deadlock. Understood? So in order to avoid the deadlock, in order to prevent the deadlock, we have to concentrate on violation or breaking that four conditions. Means we have to concentrate on, or operating system need to concentrate on how these conditions should not be get occurred. These conditions should not get satisfied. Understood? And if this one of the any of these condition not get satisfied, then definitely the deadlock can be get prevented in the system. So there are the various conditions that already I told you, four conditions are there. Now, is it possible to avoid these four conditions, or is it possible to violate or break or dissatisfy these four conditions? Let's see. Now, as already you know, the first important condition because of which deadlock occurs is nothing but the mutual exclusion. So already you know the what is the mutual exclusion, and because of the mutual exclusion, how the deadlock occurs. So mutual exclusion is nothing but what? There is a one resource, and that resource is non-shareable, means only one process can utilize that resource at a time. So if this one process will never release this resource, then other process who are waiting for that resource goes in the infinite waiting, and because of deadlock occur, that is we know. Now how to dissatisfy or violate this condition? To dissatisfy or violate this mutual exclusion condition, the only solution is what? The system must have only the resources which can be in the shareable mode only. Means your computer system only have that kind of resource which are the shareable resources. Means more than one process can utilize that resource at a time. That resources we are calling as a shareable resource. So if your system have the shareable resource only, then we can easily violate or dissatisfy this mutual exclusion condition. Because if the resources are shareable, then number of process can access the resource at a time, and no process will go into the infinite waiting. Okay, so that is the only solution to dissatisfy or violate the mutual exclusion. So in a system, there are always some resources which are mutually exclusive. But as you know, in our system, there always all the resources cannot be all the resources cannot be operate in the shareable mode. So this, in order to break this condition or violate this condition or dissatisfy this condition, it is very difficult, because in the computer system there is always presence of such kind of resource which are not shareable. Like you can take the example of tape drives or printer. So printer is a non-shareable resource, means only one user can give the print at a time. And when the one user is giving the print at a time, other users has to wait. Okay. And that is the reason we can say the printer is a non-shareable device or printer is a non-shareable resource. And because of that, it is not possible to dissatisfy the mutual exclusion, because some of the resources present in the computer system are non-shareable. So it is quite difficult to dissatisfy this condition and violate this condition. But already I told you the solution. If this condition don't if this condition if you want this condition to be get dissatisfied, then computer system must have all the resources shareable. Then and then only this condition can be get dissatisfied. Otherwise, you cannot dissatisfy or violate the mutual exclusion condition in order to access the resource. Okay. So that is the first way of preventing the deadlock. That is what you have to dissatisfy the mutual exclusion condition. Understood? And how you can dissatisfy the mutual exclusion condition? By having the all the resources in your system in the shareable mode. That is the only solution to this kind of condition, because of which deadlock occurs. So I hope all of you understood the first condition because of which deadlock occurs. And if you don't want that deadlock should happen, then how to prevent that deadlock, what is the solution for that we have discussed here. Okay. Now let's see the second condition, uh, because of which deadlock occurs, and what solution we can apply so that deadlock can be get prevented. So as already you know, the second condition because of which deadlock occurs is nothing but the hold and wait. Okay, that is what hold and wait. So how we can break this condition, or how we can dissatisfy or violate this condition? So in order to break, violate, or dissatisfy this condition, you must understood what is this condition and how, because of this condition, the deadlock can occur. So in the previous lecture, already we have discussed hold and wait means what? There is a one process who is holding the one resource. Okay. And this process P1 holding the resource, for example, R1, and still P1, sorry, here there is a process P1 which is holding the resource R1, and still P1 is waiting for the resource R2, where that resource R2 is already holded by the process P2. So that is nothing but, and this process P2 is waiting for the resource R1. So that is the hold and wait condition, means one particular process is holding some resource and waiting for some other resource to get it to complete its execution, where that other resource is already allocated to some other process. So that is the hold and wait condition. Now how you can avoid this hold and wait condition? Because of, you can see, because of this hold and wait condition, deadlock occurs, because P1 is waiting for the R1, sorry, P1 is waiting for the R2 by holding the R1, and P2 is waiting for the R1 by holding the R2. So that is the reason none of this will go into the none of this process can finish their execution, as both of them will go into the infinite waiting. So how to avoid this hold and wait? Okay, so there are the three approaches to handle or prevent the deadlock, by violating the hold and wait condition or by dissatisfying the hold and wait condition. So what is the first approach to dissatisfy, violate, or break the hold and wait condition? So first approach is here. So in this approach, a process has to be first request all the resources it require for the execution. Means what? In the first approach, what is being said? The process P1. Okay, suppose there is a process P1 Suppose process P1 is requiring the two resource R1 and R2. So this process P1 first requests the resource R1 and R2, which is required for its execution. And once that process P1 has acquired or get that resource, only then process P1 should start its execution. Until the process P1 will not get the R1 and R2, the P1 should not get started execution. Even the P1 get the R1 and not the R2, even then P1 should not start its execution, or P1 get the R2 but not the R1, even then also P1 should not start its execution. Means what? The P1 should start its execution only when it will get the R1 and R2 both the resources at a time. So because of this, what will happen? This approach ensure that the process does not hold some resource and wait for other resource. So because of that, what will happen? P1 will not hold R1 and wait for the R2, or P1 not hold the R2 and wait for the R1. P1 will start its execution only when both of the resources are available and request for both of the request is granted for the P1. So that is the only one approach using which hold and wait can be avoided. Understood? So there are some drawback of this condition also. Drawback is that it is not implementable because it is not possible to predict in advance which resources will be required for the execution, because in case of the computer system we cannot predict which resources will be required by the particular process. Understood? So prediction in advance, prediction before the that process will start execution, it is very difficult part. That is the reason it is being said it is not implementable. This first approach is not implementable, but the solution can be provided and theoretical way, that is I have explained you. And the solution is what? The process should acquire all the resource first and then it should start the execution. It should not happen that P1 is requiring the 4 resources but it has got the R1 and it start execution, and then it goes on holding the R1 and goes on waiting for the R2, R3, R4. It should not happen. And solution for this what? P1 only start the execution only when it will get all the resources available. Okay. So that is the first approach which is not practically implementable. Okay. Then second approach using which you can prevent the hold and wait condition, or you can violate the hold and wait condition, or you can dissatisfy hold and wait condition, and that second approach we are having here, wherein the second approach is what? A process is allowed to acquire the resource it desire at the current moment. After acquiring the resource, it start execution. Now before making any new request, it has to be compulsory release all the resources that it holds currently. So this approach is efficient and implementable. Now what is this approach is saying? Suppose means P1 is the one process. Now P1 process requiring the total R1, R2 and the R3. These three resources it required. But currently it is requiring the R1 only. So currently it is requiring the R1. So P1 is then in that case P1 is allowed to acquire the R1. Okay, currently it is required the R1 only. So at the current moment, P1 is granted the permission for R1. Okay. So after acquiring that R1, it should start its execution. But when it is requiring the R2, then it should release the R1 first, then it will be allowed to access the R2. When it has finished its working with the R2, then it should be allowed to request for the R3, and request will be granted only when it will release the R2. Understood? So that is the most practical solution. Okay, here means whatever the resource P1 is requiring currently, that resource only be given to the P1. And once P1 finishes its execution with that resource, then P1 should release that resource first, and then the P1 is granted to acquire the next resource. So that is the good approach. Okay, as compared with the previous approach. Okay, means P1 is our particular process is granted to access the resource which is it requires currently. Okay, once it finishes execution with the current resource, then it should be release that resource first, and then the permission for new resource will be granted. Okay, so this is the most efficient and the implementable approach. Then also we have the third approach in order to avoid the in order to prevent the hold and wait condition, which is the response for deadlock. So the third approach to dissatisfy hold and wait is what? third approach we are having here with the timer, means a timer is set after the process acquire any resource. Means suppose P1 requiring the three resource R1, R2 and the R2 and the R3. So once the P1 acquire the R1, the timer will start. For example, timer is of the 5 second. For the 15 second. So P1 can utilize the R1 only 15 second. After 15 second, the P1 should release the R1 and then only P1 will get access to the next resource. For that also timer will be allowed. Timer will be set. Then P1 can utilize the R2 for the 15 second. Then again it will go to the R3. So a timer is set after the process acquire the any resource. After the timer expires, the process has to compulsory release the resource. So if you set the timer of 15 second, then P1 has to release the R1 after the 15 second and then he will be go for the next. Then next resource P1 can utilize for the 15 second, then it go for the another. So because of that, what will happen? The P1 will not hold that R1 and wait for the another resource. P1 has to compulsory release the R1 after the time gate expires. Understood? So that is the practical and the efficient approach. So approach 2 and the approach 3 are the quite practically implemented approach. This can be followed to dissatisfy the hold and wait condition or to break or to violate the hold and wait condition. Okay. So that is our second way of deadlock prevention, which is quite possible that hold and wait can be avoided or hold and wait can be dissatisfied by using any of these three approach. Okay. So and if this condition hold out wait condition get dissatisfied or the dissatisfy or get violated, then definitely the deadlock can be get prevented. Okay. Now let's see the third condition, and can we prevent the deadlock because of dissatisfying the third condition that we have to see here. Okay, so first you need to understand what is the third condition and because of that condition how the deadlock occurs. So in the previous lecture also we have discussed. So no preemption, so that is the condition because of which deadlock occurs. So no preemption means what? If there is a process P1 is holding the resource R1, then P1 can utilize the resource R1 until the time P1 thinks it needs the R1. So you cannot forcefully take the resource R1 from the P1, even there is a process P2 has come and process P2 is of higher priority than P1. Even then also you cannot snatch or forcefully take the resource R1 from the P1. So P1, it is totally depend on the P1 when to release the resource R1. Okay, it is totally depends on the desire of the P1. It is completely the voluntary decision of the P1. Because of that, R1 will be get released. You cannot forcefully take away the resource R1 from the P1. So whenever the P1 thinks that he don't need the resource R1, then only P1 can release the resource. And that is called as a no preemption condition. Okay, that is called as a no preemptive condition or no preemption. So then what is the solution to dissatisfy this condition or break this condition? So only solution is what? Forceful preemption. Means what? Forceful preemption. So this condition can be violated by forceful preemption. Means if the P1 is holding the R1 and there is another process come which is of having the higher priority than the P1, then system should forcefully take this resource R1 from the P1. That is called as a forceful preemption. So opposite to the no preemption, forceful preemption. So by doing the forceful preemption only, by snatching the R1 from the P1 forcefully, that is only the solution to violate this condition. Okay. So consider a process is holding some resource and request other resource that cannot be immediately allocated to it. So then by forcefully preempting the currently held resource, the condition can be violated or this condition can be break. Means consider P1 is holding the R1 and P1 is requiring the R2. So P1 is waiting for the R2 by holding the R1. So in that case, to avoid, to break the non-preemptive condition, the operating system can forcefully take this R1 from the P1, understood, and allocate it to the another process until the P1 is waiting for the R2. So that is called as a forceful preemption, or forcefully taking the resource from particular process. That is the only solution to our to dissatisfy the no preemptive condition. Okay, so no preemption, to dissatisfy or violate the no preemption, only way is what? Do the forceful preemption or do the forceful snatching of resource from particular process. Okay, so forceful preemption can be done. Okay, it can be done only when there is a high probability process has arrived in the queue. What? When there is a high priority process has arrived in the queue, and that high priority resource process require the particular resource which is holded by the some other process. Means consider P1 is holding the resource R1. Now P2 has arrived in the queue. P2 is having the more priority as compared to the P1. Then in that case, forceful preemption can be done, where forcefully R1 can be taken away from the P1 and it get allocated to the P2. So in the situation of high priority process in the queue, then you can dissatisfy this condition, or you can do the forceful preemption to avoid the deadlock. So that is the third uh, solution to dissatisfy the third condition, that is the no preemption. And to dissatisfy the no preemption, only way is what? To do the forceful preemption. And if you do the forceful preemption, then definitely one process cannot hold the resource for longer period of time, and because of that the system will not go into the deadlock, system will not go into the infinite waiting. So that is the third condition that you have to avoid, that you have to violate or dissatisfy to prevent the deadlock. Okay, now let's see the last condition. By dissatisfying this last condition, is it possible to prevent the deadlock that we have to discuss? Now the last condition is the circular wait. Now before we go on thinking how to violate this condition or how to break this condition, first we need to see what is that circular wait condition because of which deadlock can occur. So in the previous lecture already we have discussed circular wait is nothing but what? There is a process P1 which is requiring the resource R1. Then there is a process P2. There is a process P2. Sorry. There is a process P1 which is requiring the resource which is holded by the P2. There is a process P2 which is requiring the resource which is holded by the P3. There is a process P3 which is requiring the resource which is being holded by the P1. So this is nothing but the called as a circular wait. Okay, this is called as a circular wait. So this condition can be violated by not allowing the process to wait for the resource in the cyclic manner. So this is a cyclic manner waiting for the resources, because here P1, for example, P1 is holding the resource R1. Okay, and P2 is holding the resource R2, and P3 is holding the resource R3. Okay, but P1 holding the R1 and P1 also requiring the P1 is also requiring the R2. P2 holding the R2, but P2 also requiring the R3. P3 is holding the R3, but P3 also requiring the R1. Understood? So that is considered as a circular waiting. So only solution to avoid the circular waiting is what? Not allowing the process to wait for the resources in the cyclic manner. That is the only thing can be done to dissatisfy this condition. So to dissatisfy the circular wait, only the thing that can be done is nothing but to not let the processes to wait for the resources in the cyclic manner. Okay, not the cycle of waiting should not be formed. Okay, cycle of waiting for cycle of waiting by the process for the resources should not be formed. That is the only solution. So to violate the condition, one approach is utilized here. In order to prevent the cycle to be get formed, the following approach is utilized, where a natural number is assigned to the every process. Means natural number is assigned to the every resources. Means each resources will assign with some numerical number like R1, R2, R3, R4 up to the Rn. Okay. And if there is a some process request, then each process is allowed to request for the resources only in certain order. Means whatever the processes are there, that process will allow to request for the resource only in certain order, in the sense only in the increasing order or only in the decreasing order of that resources. Okay. So a process, first thing is what? The resources will be number according to the natural numbers. Some numerical number will assign to the resources. And second thing is what? The processes will be allowed to access the resource or request for the resource only in the certain order. Certain order in the sense in the increasing order or in the decreasing order. Okay. For example, we consider here the increasing order is followed. If P1 is allocated the resource R5, okay. Now next time if P1 asks for the R3, R4, which are less than the R5, then such request will not be granted, because which order is followed? Increasing order. Okay. So for the P1, R6 can be allowed, R7 can be allowed, which are in the increasing order of the R5, but R4, R3 will not be allowed if the increasing order is followed. So if this approach is followed, then definitely the circular waiting can be get avoided. So same example I have written here. If P1 is process is allocate the resource R4, R5. Now next time if P1 is asked for the R4 or R3, which are lesser than R5, which are in the decreasing order than R5, such request will not be granted. Then which request will be granted? Only the request for the resources more than the R5 will be granted. So if this approach followed, then cycle will not be formed, and cycle will not be formed, then definitely the circular waiting get avoided, violated, dissatisfied, and if this get dissatisfied, deadlock can be get prevented. So that is the last approach. That's the last condition because of which you can avoid, you can prevent the deadlock. Okay. So this is our first way of handling the deadlock, where we have seen the deadlock prevention and how the deadlock can be prevented by dissatisfying the four conditions which are responsible for the deadlock. Using that, deadlock prevention can be done. Okay, now next we have to discuss second way of handling the deadlock. Now second way of handling the deadlock is the deadlock avoidance. So deadlock avoidance is also the way of avoiding the deadlock before it occurs. Okay. Now, how the deadlock avoidance can be done? So this strategy involves maintaining the set of data using which a decision will be made whether to entertain the new request or not. Means using this strategy, a certain database is maintained. Okay. And using that database, what this database will contain? This database will contain the information regarding the various resources available, the information regarding the resource requirement for the certain processes. This database will contain available resources. This database will contain allocated resources to the certain processes. This, all the information will be contained by this database. And by utilizing the database, the decision will be taken. If some new process comes, then to this new process, whether the resources should be allocated or not, that decision will be taken from this certain database. Okay. If entertaining the new request causes the system to move in the unsafe state, then it is discarded. Okay. So by allocating the resource to this P7, it is first get checked. What it is get checked? It is get checked if you allocate the resource to the P7, if the system is going to the deadlock, then that resources will not be get allocated to the P7. So these things will be get checked first, and then the resources will be get finally allocated. Okay. So This strategy requires that every process declare its maximum requirement of each process, maximum requirement of each resource type in the beginning. Okay, so this approach is quite theoretically possible, because you can see here what is the requirement of this strategy. Requirement is what each process first should declare how much resources they are going to require in the future. Okay, so that is the reason I am saying this is quite theoretically possible, but it is not practically possible that each process will know the future, in the future, how much resources they are going to be required. So if the deadlock has to be avoided, then it is a mandatory requirement that each process first declare how much maximum requirement of resources it is having. Okay, so that is the main challenge with this approach, that predicting the requirement of the uh, process before its execution. So each process has to do the prediction regarding the how much and which type of resources they are going to be required in the future. Understood? So that is quite impossible, but theoretically it is possible. That is the reason this approach can be utilized to avoid the deadlock. Okay, so then to avoid the deadlock, there is a certain algorithm is also being utilized, and that is the banker's algorithm. Already in the practical session we have discussed this banker's algorithm with example, and also we have implemented the practical on this also. Okay, so banker algorithm is one of the example of deadlock avoiding strategy. Using the banker's algorithm, deadlock can be get avoided. Okay, so banker's algorithm is what? Banker's algorithm is the resource allocation and deadlock avoidance algorithm, which test all the requests made by the process for the resources. So this is the algorithm which utilize certain kind of database. Okay, and this algorithm test before finally allocating the resource to the process. What it test? This algorithm test if certain process P7 come. Now this algorithm test if you allocate certain resource to this process P7, whether our system will be in the safe state or in the unsafe state. Now by allocating certain resource to the P7, if the system will be in the safe state, then only the banker's algorithm will allocate the resource to the P7. But by allocating this resource to the P7, if the system is going to the unsafe state in the sense system may go into the deadlock, then banker's algorithm will not allocate the resource to the certain process. So same thing I have written here. The banker's algorithm is an example of deadlock avoidance strategy. So banker's algorithm is resource allocation and deadlock avoidance algorithm, which test all the requests made by the process for the resource. And it check for the safe state and the unsafe state. What it check? It check for the safe state. Safe state in the sense deadlock will not occur if the resource get allocated to the process. And unsafe state means what? Deadlock can be occur if these resource get allocated to the certain process. So it check for the safe state. If after granting the request, system remains in the safe state, then it allow the request for the resource. But after granting the request for the resource, if there is a no safe state, then it doesn't allow the request made by the process. And in this way, deadlock can be get avoided before it occurs. So banker's algorithm is a theoretical possible, it is not practically possible, but still it can be applied to avoid the deadlock. So these are the two main approach today we have discussed to handle the deadlock. First approach that we have discussed is the deadlock prevention, and second approach that we have discussed is the deadlock avoidance, which can be get avoided with the help of the one of the example of that I told you, the banker's algorithm. Okay, so that's it from the today's lecture. So remaining two strategies to handle the deadlock that we will discuss in the next lecture. I hope today's session all of you understood. If any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. Okay, thank you all of you.